Hi students, and welcome to week 5 in your online general psychology class. As you can see, my background looks a little bit different. I am back on campus, which feels great. If you have classes that are face-to-face and have met back on campus this week, I hope they're going well, and I hope it feels great to be back on campus. My office, of course, is on the 6th floor of Moody. Stop on by if you happen to be on campus. It'd be great to put a face and a name together. Since we're online only, I always appreciate the opportunity to meet you. And in fact, a couple of you have already stopped by this week. So thank you for doing that. So let's take a look at what we're doing this week. This week we will be in chapter 3, which is titled The Biological Foundations of Behavior. So in this chapter, I will be teaching you everything from the neuron to the nervous system to the endocrine system, and we'll take a look at the brain, all the different parts and the functions of those different parts of the brain. So it is a great chapter to set a foundation for understanding everything from communication to movement with our bodies to our behavior to the different types of intelligence. So many topics, every topic, in fact, that we talk about from this point forward will relate back to understanding how that communication formulates in the brain. So it is a very broad chapter in terms of understanding the biophysical part of our behavior. So let's take a look at what we have in this week's module. I have created a micro lecture for you guys over the neuron. So understanding, of course, we have billions of neurons in our central nervous system. They are the building block of who we are, and they communicate through neurotransmitters. So if the neuron is a new concept to you, it can be a little overwhelming. And if it's not new, it's always great to have a refresher. So check out that micro lecture for a breakdown of the neuron. As far as assignments for this week, let's first look at the ones that you have in Connect. You have a couple APR assignments in Connect. One is over the brain structure identification, going over the parts of the brain, and then one over Alzheimer's disease and what role the neurons play in that. And so I've noticed lately I've had so many students with a particular interest in Alzheimer's and understanding more about it. So I think you'll really find this educational, informational, and give you extra practice with understanding Alzheimer's disease. And then an interactivity assignment over neurons. And then, of course, at the end of this chapter, you will have your Chapter 3 quiz. So these 4 assignments, the 3 assignments plus the Chapter 3 quiz are all in Connect. You also have an additional assignment for this week. And let's click on that and check out that assignment. So this is an assignment over the different psychological perspectives and how it relates to depression. And so this will meet your student learning outcome number 3. I have that learning outcome defined for you right here at the top. And so this one is specifically understanding how the different perspectives in psychology take a viewpoint. And in this case, I'm having you specifically look at the different viewpoints in terms of understanding and describing depression. So what you will be doing for this is you do have a couple questions that you'll be answering. You will need to do some research. And so just like you did with your assignment over the historical influences, where I asked you to cite your sources in APA format, you'll do that again here. And so look back, I tried to give you a lot of feedback on that first assignment on your APA format. Overall, you did a great job, but there were some corrections. So, some that come to my mind that I made were making sure your resources were listed in alphabetical order. Make sure that if you title them, they're called references, not works cited. That's MLA. Some of you had some specifics on, where the date goes and so forth. So look back at that feedback I gave to you to do a good job again, because you did all do a good job on APA last time, to make sure you do that again here. At the bottom, I have provided a grading rubric so you can go through and see where your points come from. But in a nutshell, what you'll be doing is you're going to look at the different psychological perspectives. And so I have them listed here. They're biological, evolutionary, psychodynamic, behavioral, cognitive, humanistic, and sociocultural. And what I want you to do is I'm looking for about a paragraph for each question. And so on this first one here is just go through and what are the basic beliefs of these different perspectives, and then name a famous psychologist associated with each perspective. You've kind of already done that for at least one perspective when you looked at the historical influences. So just really kind of break down each of these perspectives and then just mention one of the famous psychologists associated with each perspective. And then what I want you to do in a second paragraph is just write about how each perspective would treat depression. So remember, really what we're looking at here is, kind of the glasses, if you will, that each perspective would look through to describe and their different behaviors. In this case, you're just specifically looking at depression. So biological, let me use that as an example. Obviously, biological is looking at really what we're talking about in this chapter, chapter 3, with the brain and the neurotransmitters and maybe even our hormone system. And so how would a biological psychologist look at depression? They would look at it as an organic cause. They'd look at it as a chemical imbalance, possibly. And so how would they treat it? Probably with medication that would balance that those chemicals out. So looking at the different levels of neurotransmitters and maybe even the hormonal response. So that's what I'm looking at. I'll kind of grab another one here, the psychodynamic. Remember, anytime you see psychodynamic, and I'm kind of answering that question number 1 for you on the famous psychologist, you're thinking Freud. So what would Freud do? How would Freud treat depression? Probably with some psychotherapy, right? And so just look at those different perspectives. You don't have to dive too deep. Really kind of keep it surface level here. Again, not a paragraph for each perspective. For all of them, it should be about a paragraph in length. Again, that's minimum. It can be as long as you want, but just I'm wanting you to demonstrate to me that you could tell me a little bit about each of these perspectives. You can name a psychologist associated with each of those perspectives, and then you would be able to tell me how each of these perspectives would treat depression. So it'll take a little bit of research to look at this. You can kind of just see a little example down here about Johnny, who's a 5-year-old, just kind of going through and kind of giving some examples there. Again, the grading rubric is down here at the bottom. You've done an assignment very similar, the historical influences. You all did great. So that is about what I'm looking for on this one. Of course, a different topic, but in terms of length and APA citations and so forth. Okay. So those are your assignments for the week. That's what we're covering. I hope you have a wonderful week. You are officially have a quarter of the semester under your belt. So we're now entering into week 5, which will take us up to that midterm mark, when we'll kind of have another kind of pause and talk about where we are in the semester. So have a great week. As always, please feel free to reach out to me with any questions that you may have. Take care, everybody.